Ladies and gentlemen, here we go again. My name is Trevor Martin, and I'm the founder of RMF Coaching. And as you know, if you're in attendance, I love doing a special thing called Way of the Warrior. Now, how Way of the Warrior came to be was actually through my RMF coaching experience. Started listening to people's stories that I was coaching. I thought, no, this has got we got to talk about this on a larger scale. So I created Way of the Warrior and I started going out to social media looking for warriors that are kind of pushing back against that everyday drab, right? That the darkness that's just out there, right? And it just so happens that I found another warrior, Riley, I have to thank you so very much for doing on this on short notice. I know you're doing a lot. You've got a lot of training going on, and we decided that hey, let's hop on a call and let's get this done for the holiday season. I found Riley on LinkedIn and I'm scrolling LinkedIn and I come across this post about a bobsled team, a USA bobsled team. And I'm like, stopped. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. That's cool. Look at some of the things they're talking about. And I'm like, hold on a second. Also a Marine. I'm like, I have to know, or I have to know more. So I reached out to Riley. I'm like, Riley, I got to get you on the show. And Riley, I got to say, I'm very, very thankful for you being here tonight.
No, Trevor, I'm thankful for LinkedIn and just for your ability to find something that was different and explore and put yourself out there and be bold. And I'm so excited and happy to be talking to you this evening.
Well, it's one of the things that I really, really like about just in the conversation we had before we hit record, is the positivity that you have, but also the sternness and steadfast mode, I would say, when it comes to your faith. And I know that that's something that you're going to get into tonight. Um, and we didn't have time to really discuss this, but faith is something that I've struggled with personally. I was born a Christian, raised a Christian or sorry, born into a Christian home, raised in a Christian home, struggled with my faith. I'm 44 years old, continue to do to this day. However, one thing that I do find extremely peaceful is that I keep running into individuals like yourself that are very, very steadfast in their faith and passionate about it. So I'm going to ask this. Uh, we like to take us back, right? I know it's not always been like it is today. So when we think about the Marines, when we think about your faith, when we think about the bobsled team, right? All of those things, all of that's now, but how did all of that come to be? Like, where did this start, and what were some of the giants that you had to slay and obstacles that you had to overcome?
I love the way you frame this. And I just want to start by saying, all of this, I never ask the questions ahead of time. I speak it all just like how I see it straight away. And
Preach.
just for you or anyone listening, Trevor, if you feel like you're surrounded by these people, it's not on coincidence. It's not by chance. Like it's because like you are being pursued. And when you are around people like maybe myself or other Christians or athletes or whatever, you start to become like the people that you're around. You start to be
Preach.
influenced by the people you tend to surround yourself with. So on social, on LinkedIn or whatever, if you're searching for negative things, you will find negative things. If you're searching for positive things, you will find positive things. It's kind of a choose your own adventure, but you're going to find what you're looking for. So that's for sure going to happen.
100%.
But to initially answer your question, bottom line up front, the bluff we call it in the military is the reason why I'm here today. I'm talking to you was because of all the doors that God closed for me. And that is like, whoa, maybe
Mm.
not what you thought I was going to say. All the success is me sitting here talking to you in Park City, Utah, about to compete for Team USA, just got back from a 6-month deployment in Iraq as an active duty Marine captain. There's so much that people don't see. And this is kind of what we were just briefly hitting on that I wanted to really talk about today. But life was not always easy. I was not always a devout Christian. And I got punched in the mouth more times than I could probably imagine. Um, I grew up Christian in a Catholic household. When I went to college, like a lot of people, kind of fell away from that. So my dad was a professional baseball player. My mom was a very successful businesswoman, really ingrained sport and academic like in my head. But even going to college, my dad played baseball at the University of Arizona, an incredible baseball school. My goal, my dream was to make my dad proud. So as a little girl, I put my self-worth into the way that my dad viewed me,
Preach.
which
Mm.
was very, at the time, I felt like meant something good, right? My parents' good influence on me. I want to make my father and my mother proud. But I quickly found out that when I got turned down from an SEC school and a Big Ten school, that they were only going to offer me a walk-on position for softball, I instantly felt like I was a failure. And so, right off the bat, I'm a 15-year-old girl, knowing I'm going to be playing in college. Stop playing other sports because they're like, pursue softball, you have a go at this. And my two top schools both basically pulled me out on recruiting trips, gave me like the whole nine, right? Rolls out the red carpet. And at the very end is like, hey, we like you, Riley. We really want you to come here. You know, my dad bought me the gear, but we're gonna give you 5% scholarship or something like this. And I remember the instant failure that I felt. And being 15, 16 years old, that's like a terrible feeling. I can't even drive it. I don't even have my license. And I have people basically telling me that I'm not good enough. And so much of my story that we're gonna really get a place in my head for me and then in my life. And I could feel that doubt, insecurity creep in. You're not a good enough softball player for the school. You're not smart enough. You're not talented enough. You're not fast enough, whatever that looks like. But praise God that he closed those two doors, because instantly I got recruited and I played softball at George Washington University, which is a Division I school in Washington, D.C. And that's where my whole life kicked off. You know, people are like, what do you want to be when you get older? All this stuff. And I didn't really know. I knew I was really passionate about my country and I wanted to serve. And so as a
Right on.
16-year-old, knowing I'm going to DC, I'm like, I'm probably going to get involved in government to some capacity. So by grace of God, he had me meet a Marine recruiter kind of on accident within my first month of being on the college campus.
That's
So I
crazy.
ring my parents up and I'm like, I ring my parents up. Remember, like really strong, like athletic, really strong, like professional businesswoman. And I'm like, hey, I'm not coming home this summer. I'm going to go to the Marine Corps and try officer candidate school. If you could only imagine any parent listening, if you can only imagine like the look on your face, right?
Yeah,
They're
like
like, Riley, you, and I got the same response by so many people.
right? No, go no,
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess that's the response you got.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, whoa, time out.
Hold on.
Yeah,
They're like, my mom, I think she cried a little bit and she was like, I think this is a phase.
right on.
Well, she was hoping so. And so I did it. And you talk about doing hard things. I show up to the military. I have no military in my family. I have no training experience because I was playing Division I softball. So I couldn't go to any of the pre-trainings prior to showing up on in June 1st. I finished my Atlantic 10 championship and literally 2 days later go straight here. And if anyone's military, you'll understand when I mean this, but I showed up with my hair down because I didn't know. I just had my bags. I was like, okay, I'll just check in, like whatever. Immediately, I just have all these sergeant instructors come running at me, just knife hand, just screaming. And my dad drops me off driving away as I'm just getting like chewed out for not being prepared and in it. And it was one of the most challenging 6 weeks of my life, but one of the most rewarding. And why it was rewarding and why I was so proud of that moment was because of the hard things that it made me do. Pushing myself, living out of my limits. I think the military is great in this aspect. They really look to take somebody, they break you down, and then they remold you. And it's the most amazing thing as an 18-year-old when you realize the concept of selflessness.
Ooh,
And it's not about you, it's about the people around you. And you need to be
yeah,
so squared away so you can take care of the people to take care of anybody else. And so basically, as my story continues, and I'll get there eventually, but
you're good.
it's all these hard things that happened that allowed me to find the resilience to get to where I am today. And what separates me from other people isn't much other than two things. One, I don't believe failure is a bad thing as long as I learn from it.
Preach.
And two, I live by Joshua 1:9, which talks about being bold and courageous. not being fearful, but again, being bold and courageous. And by putting yourself out there and everything that I've done, the military, bobsled, softball, military pageant, my book coming out, game shows, all stuff, it only happened because I put myself out there and I gave myself a chance. And so people often will ask me, for this warrior mindset or anything, they're like, well, what's the secret? Like, what separates you from other people? And I'll be the first to say, from the most humble standpoint, there is nothing special about me that other people don't have or aren't capable of having.
Let's go. Let's go.
It's
Let's fucking go.
like everyone has it in them. It's just a matter of doing hard things. And again, putting yourself out there. So we're on the same page with this, but yeah.
100%. Like that is one of the things that I coach on, that I scream daily on social media is you have the power within. All you have to do is find a way to ignite it, but that's not it. Once you have that once you have that lit, then it's about embracing it, putting it into action, using it on the daily, right? You talk about fear, you talk about failure. And those people, right? We hear it all the time. Sit at the table with warriors. The conversation's different. Those are the people, right? You're talking about the things that separate you. Those are the people that sit at the table and go, hold on. Okay, yep, this is kind of scary. I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I actually don't know what's behind that door, but I'm just going to go ahead and kick that in. We'll find out, and we'll figure it out as we go. The other thing is failure, right? Okay, I got knocked down. I got punched in the face. I didn't plan correctly. So I can either, just say, all right, well, I'm done and that's it. Or I can go back to the drawing board and I can re-battle plan. I can figure out where I went wrong and make adjustments. And then this time I'll be damned if I fail again, right? But
I use that exact terminology. The only word that I use is the military term pivot. I just
yeah,
pivot.
right on.
Exactly like you said. I go back to the drawing board. You're right. It's it's insanity to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. So I'm not
You
going to
know,
do that again. But I'm going
right
to
on.
pivot. If this door's shut or if I failed at something, it doesn't mean that I can't still achieve that, but I have to pivot my strategy. I have to go at it a different way. I need to look at it from a different
Yeah.
angle, different perspective. I need to do something different to be able to get me
Go on now.
to where I want to go.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So where you want to go now? We're going to get to that. We're going to get to what your future is. But talk to us a little bit about we talked a little bit about the Marine Corps, right? And
Mhm.
then when the breaking down and then building back up, right? I'm never going to forget the hair down and the knife in the hands. Like, what are you doing? You messed up, man. You better fix your shit and come correct. Okay. So talk about how did this all come up with the bobsled? Like, where does that fit in? And by the
Yeah.
way, bravo from coming back from a deployment, coming back right back into the States, going right into training. That's Moxie shit right there.
So where bobsled came in was I finished my softball career. So I spent 4 years playing softball at George Washington University. As I was playing softball, I was doing my military training. But I'll be honest, like I did not have the best softball career. I started and
Okay.
played almost every single game as a freshman, and I did not end that way
Mm,
my senior year, which is really hard to swallow. To this
yeah.
day, it's still tough to swallow that like my senior year, a brand new sophomore got the starting job in the first game over me as a senior and as a leader. And it had
Mm,
nothing to do with anything other than our skill set. But that didn't mean that I didn't want to make excuses. That didn't mean that I didn't instantly at the time not like her, try to, think of anything else. And so the lesson that I learned from college sports was it's cutthroat.
oh,
Everyone's
yeah.
replaceable and you can't take things personally, but it's how you respond. And so much of
Ooh,
softball was mental. You fail 70% of the time. You really have to find that mental state where you can flow and find what works for you. And what stunk was that I graduated, I'm 22 years old, and I just felt like I was finding it. I was
I get
finding that
it.
mental aspect. I was piecing everything together from a physical standpoint. And I was like, I'm like not even at my peak yet. And you're telling me sports are done for me. And again, as a woman, I was told, you're probably not going to make it past college sport, because there's not a lot of opportunities.
Mm,
And so I had the military and the Marine Corps, and I'd say everyone in the military, especially the Marine Corps, is a tactical athlete because we are required
Well, I
to
like
perform. That's
that.
part of our job
Right
to
on.
hit fitness standards and tests and stuff like this. So I still got that. I still got that team. I still had to train for these tests. Um, but I was like, no way, ain't no way that like my career's over. So I finished all of my training. I become a logistics officer. I get stationed a year after doing all my trainings, and it's COVID. And like majority of people at the time found that excuse and shut down. And I'm like, I'm going to use this time to propel myself forward.
Let's
And I just
go.
start looking, and
That's so
I
true.
prayed on it, and I talked to God, and I was like, I don't feel like I'm done competing. I have that urge. I need a goal. I need a why. I need to wake up, and I need to keep pursuing something. I pursued all my goals so far, but that means I need to keep going. What's next? And so I saw that Bobsled was having an online tryout. Now the reason why I saw that was because where I played softball was also where a five-time Olympian played softball at and turned bobsled. So there was a connection there from college.
Right
So
on.
I saw that instead of in person combine, it was online. And I said, screw it. At the very least, this gives me something to train for.
There you
So
go.
I'm like, all right,
Keeps you sharp.
I lost all my softball weight. I basically condensed down to being right, this tactical athlete and all this stuff. So just for fun, I spent a month training sprints, more squats, deadlifts, that kind of stuff. I compiled a video. I sent it in, and me, being bold and courageous, I picked up the phone and I called the head coach. I said, "Hey, basically, you don't know who I am, but you will. I submitted my video. I'm active duty Marine. I was a former Division I softball player, and I'm really interested, and I want to give this a shot." Well, because of that and using my connections and putting myself out there and the video that I submitted, I got an invitation to come out during COVID to Park City, and my command supported me, which was a whole nother thing I want to dive into, but I'll gloss over briefly. But the ability for my command and the ability for people to believe in you and know that they might take a hit at the short term, but long term it will pay off, was incredible leadership that I will be forever grateful for. But they allowed me to come try a sport I've never done before. They stuck me in the driver's seat because we were hurting on pilots. And next thing you know, because of God and everything else, I was able to continue in the sport. I got two bronze medals that year. And within 2 full seasons, I made my first national team. And here I am beginning full season year 4. I've competed in the last 2 world championships and trying to become the first female Marine in the Olympics. Now, as amazing as that sounds, because it is, and I'm proud of it, I'm going to hit you
You
with
should
that real
be.
truth. My career has been nothing but full of hardship. And while I've had all those successes and I've accomplished those things I just told you, world championships, medals, all this kind of stuff, the amount of failure that I've had is incredibly overwhelming, from what people don't see. And I'm going to let you in on like this much, but something I don't talk about often, but I need to because it's real. Long story short, went through a very tough divorce. Um, and that shook me. That made me, that devilish, that feeling of like I'm not enough started to creep in again. I started not eating. I started not sleeping. I went through a little bit of like a depression cycle, and my performance was hurting from that. So a year later, I really felt like I rebuilt myself. I did things for me. I chose the hard path. I left. I started with nothing, moved to a new city, rebuilt myself, new job, new everything. And I finally enter my last year, the beginning of last year's season. A week before team trials competition that like gives you your ranking, I break my foot overtraining. And I'm like, you're joking. So I'm like, this was supposed to be like my comeback year, all this stuff, right?
Mm.
So I'm in a boot and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to push. And I spent those days in a boot. When it came time on race day, I sent it. And I wasn't named to that top national team again. They took 3. I was number 4. And that hurt. And so I
I
said, you know
bet.
what? I'm going to take the cards that I'm dealt with. I'm going to keep punching. and I'll make my way back. With a little bit of faith, a little bit of work, I start getting better. My foot starts healing. And next thing you know, USA 3 had a tragic injury, and I get called up to compete in world championships because I was USA 4. And I'm like, this is it. And this is that part of like a Disney movie that you're like, if the feel good story of like, she did everything right. She hung in there. She trained. She kept going. And you think like it's going to have like a happy ending. So I fly my parents out to Germany. My dad had never been to Germany. The Marine Corps supported me going. I had to pay for all of it myself, but sponsors and people stepped up, and I'm like feeling it. I'm like, this is my moment. This is my time. World championships are filled of 4 different heats, essentially 4 different runs combined time. Okay.
Okay.
25 sleds, 25 top of the nation. I go down my first run, crash at the end. Okay. Riley, fix your
Okay.
mistake. Next run, go down, crash in the same spot. I'm like, oh my gosh. So stop, go back to the drawing board, right? Like I am down. I hurt my teammate behind me. She's not able to go the next day. So it's 2 runs each day combined. So 2 days total of racing. My teammate got hurt so bad from the crashes that she wasn't even able to go, and she's a stud. So now I have to sleep at night knowing I just crashed one of my best friends and teammates. She's so hurt she can't go tomorrow. I got to get back and go again tomorrow and duke this out. So top 20 are the only ones who get a 4th run. So I'm right at number 20 as it stands after like 2 crashes at the very end. So I'm like, all right, Riley, pull it together. Get this. I got a new girl behind me. It's a new day. You're ready. You got this. And guess what happens? Crash at the end again. I'm like, and I was doing different things, but the amount of frustration, I end up securing my 20th spot by like a 10th of a second. Like it was dramatic. And then finally, I have the whole like country, I swear, of Germany, but all the people that were there literally cheering for me, being like, you got this. Like, you can do this. Like, finish. And I have my parents 3 times so far. And I'm like, I'm not doing this again. Like, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to change it. I go on my last run. And what you think would happen? The Disney movie story was I would just cruise down there and everyone would be so excited and be great. I crashed 2 curves before that last curve. And this time I was hurt. And I finished, and I don't get to see my parents because we were taken off to go get checked by medical because it was bad. My sled's just not destroyed, but feels like it was destroyed. And I crashed all 4 runs in world championships. And I am like, go down in history for the only person I think ever to have crashed all 4 heats of world championships. And if you don't think that took almost everything out of me, you're wrong. It took everything out of me. I'm like, I thought this was it. Like, Lord, I thought that you set me up. You gave me this opportunity, and I am hurt mentally, emotionally, physically. I hurt 2 people that I love and I care about. My family's out here and watch me just get annihilated as I'm going 90 miles an hour, and I'm just ripping like my suit and my helmet because I'm going against the ice and friction. My team and Team USA, I feel like I let down, and the people and the sponsors who got me here. And it took me like 2 days. I was in a rut. And again, what separates maybe the warriors from the not, that's how you get back up and keep fighting. And it would have been so easy. And a lot of people probably would have stayed down. A lot of people may not have been able to get back in the sled. And as soon as I got on that flight, I touched down where I live in DC. I drove 9 hours to Lake Placid, and I'm racing within 48 hours again. And I finished, and I medaled, and no more crashes, and no more issues. But again, I didn't have that championships moment. And while I let people in on that, it's kind of like, it's not all what it seems, people. I
Right
struggle.
on.
I'm human. I
Let's
fail.
go.
All the things that you do. I feel depressed. I feel down. I don't know how I'm going to get up and do this again. I don't even want to eat because I'm so upset and disappointed in myself. And how could this have happened after a really hard year? And I thought this was my chance. And it wasn't. And where people, I think struggle with faith and stuff is sometimes they're like, well, God, why did this happen? Why do bad things happen? Why did you allow this? And the biggest thing, take it away, and it's that perspective. I'm like, Lord, thank you for letting me be okay. Thank you for letting me walk away from that. Thank you for letting my
Hmm.
family come and giving me even the opportunity to represent my country. Thank you for allowing me to continue the sport of bobsled that I love. Thank you for not giving me a serious head injury or anything like that. Thank you for the
There you go.
resiliency and the character that you're going to allow me to build. And thank you for the story that I can share other people, that someone can hear the story. And if they feel like they're down there and they feel that depressed mode that I was in, that they too can get out of it and continue to go and continue to be successful. And their story doesn't end there. That's just a part of the story as they continue on. And so when I'm now looking at you here, I went on a 6-month deployment and I'm back here competing. And things have gone well so far this season. But again, it's not the best ever. I haven't gotten to the first place that I'm searching for. But it's that perspective piece that I so badly want people to understand is it's like you can look at it one or two ways. You can look at it and you can be negative and you can get knocked down, you can stay down and you can sulk in it and you can stay there.
Right on.
Or you get knocked down, you take the time to process it and you keep going.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yes. So there's a couple things here, and I definitely want to, Riley, we're going to do another one of these, like a part two, especially after you've done some more competitions and things like that, because I want to stay in tune with this growth. And I can't tell you how I love your analogy to a Disney movie. Like, hey, you expect like, okay, there's like, oh my gosh, she faced the dragon, she had her sword out, and she's like, okay, here's the big bad dragon, and I gotta slay it, and then I'm gonna walk off into the sunset. And I love the fact that you broke that down and said, no, actually I got punched in the teeth 4 different times. In fact, I came back and I'm starting to compete again, but I'm still in search of that first place.
Mm-hmm.
And think about how glorious that first place is going to feel to you when you get it. 'Cause I'll bet you get it because of all of the kicks, all the licks you took. Like, oh man, I remember each one of those. I bet you relive those crashes, especially when others are injured, right? Because
Yes.
it's not just about the crash; it's about what happens to the individuals that are with you that are involved, and that weight that you feel on you. Riley, as you look forward, so you're in Salt Lake, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going through some training. Take us a little bit into the future. What's this next year? Hell, what's the next 2 years look like for you? What are you working on?
Yeah, I love that. So I want to work on myself always in multiple different ways. Um,
Okay.
Personally, professionally, with my spirituality, and the essence of giving back. And so there's a whole lot of things that I'm working on, I'm trying to accomplish. From a sports perspective, the Olympics are in February of 2026. That's
Let's
just
go.
what now 15 months away, which is nothing. And my goal is to put myself out there. Full disclosure, there's 6 total pilots for Team USA that are qualified. I'm one of the 6 that are great. I mean, the 5 others that I'm surrounded with are absolutely great. Um, and only 3 of us make it. And that's
Sure.
the hard truth. We might all be ranked top 25 in the world, but our nation can only have 3. And
Right
so
on.
I am duking it out and fighting for one of those 3 spots essentially. So continuing to try to stay as mentally, physically, and emotionally fit as possible for that. But while that's happening, I'm also having to grow professionally. I'm a captain of the United States Marine Corps. Being a Marine came before bobsled. Being a Marine is more important than that, which meant, this past summer, I had to take a 6-month deployment. It was the right thing to do. I had to step up and go fight and serve, which means, I missed all my preseason and early on season because I was in Iraq. And I had to come back from Iraq and 3 days later get on a flight to Canada to go compete. And that was a whole different like shakeup. But from a
I
Marine
bet.
standpoint, like I need to continue to lead and I need to continue to be there for my Marines and I need to continue to work and grow to be the best leader that I can be because my Marines deserve that. And so I took a job. The Marines going to be moving me to San Diego. So I'm very excited to embark on a new journey there and working and helping with recruiting and sharing my story and what I think more people should be joining the Marine Corps. I mean this from the bottom of my heart, and that's why I asked to do this. I'm like, the Marine Corps was the best thing that's ever happened to me, but I never thought it was possible because I never saw a woman in uniform, let alone the Marine Corps. So off of that tangent, my goal is to spread my story, not for me, but to bring people into
Okay.
that walk of life, to be bold when they see that chance and they hear how great the Marine Corps is, and they're like, wait a minute, I can do that too. I can do something that's hard. I can make something of myself. So professionally, that's a big goal for me. Personally, I found a man that I am so incredibly in love with. Him and I, he's served as well, so he's active duty. We've been together for almost a year now, and I felt like I got a second chance at life with him. And so I can't wait to
Yes.
marry him, and I can't wait to be a mother. And I love being able to say that now. I can't wait to grow a family in that. So after 2026, I can't wait to marry Danny and start looking about have a family and raising little warriors of my own while I continue to pursue excellence and whatever that
Yeah.
looks like. My children's book is coming. Excited for this. So what I'm working on with that is I really want to get it out to as many kids as possible. I want to speak at schools. I want to speak at conventions or whatever. And a goal of mine is somewhere find some big rich donor that buys it and I can give them to kids for free.
Yeah.
um, and just instill the same things we're talking about, but at a lower level so they can have these concepts of boldness and courage from a younger age.
Yeah.
And then I have a couple other things up my sleeve, but similar to this, I love speaking. I love being in speaking engagements. I love working with people. So want to continue to do some more of that. And my episodes of Family Feud should be coming out, and that's just an exciting, just like fun competition that I'm just really excited for people to see. And Steve Harvey's
Yeah.
hilarious. So, of all those things, yes, I have a lot of fun stuff coming, and hopefully some things that God has plans that I'm not sure of yet. But yeah, some good stuff I'm looking forward to in the future.
Well, Riley, I gotta tell you, I'm all smiles here, and I love conversations. I love conversations that get you absolutely lit internally, and this is one of those conversations, because one of the things you said, first and foremost, before bobsledding, I was I'm a Marine, and that says something. Like, you don't take your responsibilities lightly. You're like, hey,
Mhm.
look, I signed up for this gig. That comes first, and that's what I'm gonna do. So here we fucking go.
Yeah.
And looking at the future, here's one thing that really stands out is you're like, hey, look, I'm still, I'm training because we got the Olympics coming up, and I want to compete, but nothing's guaranteed. I'm not guaranteed that first place. I'm not guaranteed that I'm going to get to even be part of the team because there's great individuals around me. So what I appreciate about you also is the humbleness that I hear, and understanding and acknowledging that there's other warriors that you're rubbing shoulders with. And I will say this, those shoulders are going to make you and continue to push you and refine you into being even greater than you are now. And I'm excited what's going to, what, and this might come up as a bit of a surprise. My favorite part about this whole story is your children's book. And the
Mhm.
reason is because of my 18-month-old Charlie Quinn. And she is a little bit of a, she's ornery, but she's a little bit of a badass herself. And so when I think as a father, when I look, aside from my mother and aside from the family, but, you know, what material would I want her to read? Well, I would
Mhm.
definitely. And who would I want her to meet? Who would I want her to aspire to be? As she's growing up and she's watching the news, as she's watching social media, as he continues, right? I have a 10-year-old Aubrey. As as she looks at like, what do I want to, what kind of warrior do I want to mold myself after? I'm going to be like, hey, you should turn into and see what Riley is doing. Look at some of her stuff. Look what she, and when that children's book comes out, oh, Charlie, so that right there, that hit me because I'm like, you know what? We talk about good warriors. We talk about people pushing against the darkness. This right here, perfect example. Riley, as we close this out, and I absolutely hate these are the type of conversations I just want to keep going and going and going and going, right? But as we close this one out, and audience, rest assured, when I can get back, get Riley back here, we'll do a round two. Riley, as we close this out, how can people get a hold of you, on social media? Where are you, your website? What's the best way to kind of get on your roster? And folks, you're going to want to get on our roster.
So just with all this, I run all my social media. I do all the marketing, all the sponsorship for myself. So I limit it down. I'm only on LinkedIn as of recent because I'm adulting and Instagram. So there's a bunch of fake accounts on Facebook and TikTok and all that stuff. None of that's me. There's one Instagram account. There's one LinkedIn account. On LinkedIn, I try to keep a little bit more professional, a little bit more tasteful in the sense of like, these are things I've learned. These are things that digest
Right
it.
on.
Easy one, two, three things. And Instagram is honestly my life. Like I don't hide anything from that. I've been told, you need to be professional, you need to be this. And I'm like, I'm gonna be me. And I'm
Preach.
gonna show my bobsled. I'm gonna show my military. I'm gonna show the people I love and who I am as a silly, part of Christ. So you get a little bit of both. So definitely follow me on both. And then, like I said, and I know Trevor, you've seen this, but anyone who reaches out to me ever, as long as it's not inappropriate, I will always respond back. I literally run through all of my messages. I always reach out. If anyone hears this and they have questions or they need help or they need a resource or something, like it is my honor and duty to be able to serve you. Being a servant leader is one of my favorite things I get to do. And it's not about me, it's about elevating the people around me. So if anyone here needs to be lifted or elevated or questions or anything, like please reach out. I'm more than happy to engage in a conversation or see anything I can do to make your life better.
Riley, we're gonna end it right there because I don't have anything to add to that except for bravo. And if you when folks, if you're looking for an example of a true servant, uh, you've found it right here. So I really encourage you to um, get on LinkedIn and connect with Riley and get her on your roster. Riley, thank you so very much for taking the time to meet with me and do this Way of the Warrior. It's been a true honor, and I can't wait to see what happens next because I know it's going to be glorious.
Thank you, Trevor.
You're absolutely welcome. Folks, that's going to wrap this up. Have a good night, and hey, we'll see you next time.